The hospital corridor was silent. Only the steady beeping of machines filled the air. Inside a cold white room, Layla lay weak on the bed. Her hand clutched her belly, the child inside her the only reason she was still holding on. Her husband, Adrian Steele, stood tall in a black suit. His face was unreadable. Next to him, another woman leaned on his arm. She wore a silk dress, her eyes wet, her breath uneven. Her name was Vanessa, Adrian's mistress. The doctor's voice cut the air. Vanessa needs blood. Now. She won't. Make it without a donor. Adrian's eyes turned to Layla. You'll do it, Layla's body trembled. I'm pregnant, Adrian. How can you even... His jaw tightened. You'll give her blood, or she dies. Do you want that on your conscience? Her heart split. She looked at the man she had loved since she was 18, the man she had trusted when he promised her a forever. Now he was standing before her, protecting his mistress, while she lay in the hospital carrying his child. Tears blurred her vision. You're choosing her over me, over our baby. Adrian didn't flinch. His silence was the answer she dreaded. The nurse wheeled in the equipment. The needle pierced her skin. She winced, holding her breath, praying her child would survive this. She felt her strength drain, her body going cold. Vanessa was rushed into the next room, her life saved with Layla's blood. When it was over, Layla lay motionless, pale as snow. She stared at the ceiling, her chest rising in shallow breaths. Adrian walked to her side, but instead of comfort, he offered a command. You'll be fine. Stop being dramatic. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She swallowed the pain, the betrayal, the heartbreak. She turned her face away, too weak to argue. That night, when the room emptied, she reached for her bag under the bed. With trembling fingers, she pulled out an envelope. Inside, the divorce papers she had prepared in secret for weeks. She placed them on the bedside table. I can't stay with a man who doesn't see me, she whispered, her voice breaking. The door opened. Adrian stepped back in, adjusting his cufflinks. His eyes fell on the papers. For the first time, his confident mask cracked. What is this? Her voice was steady now. It's freedom. For me. For our baby. From you. He picked up the papers, his hand shaking. His face turned pale, his body stiff. He tried to speak, but no words came. Suddenly his knees buckled. He grabbed the table for support, but his strength gave way. He collapsed on the cold floor, the divorce papers still in his hand. Layla gasped, her heart racing. Nurses rushed in, shouting his name. Machines beeped wildly. She watched from the bed, tears streaming down her cheeks. The man who had crushed her spirit was now lying unconscious at her feet. And in that moment, Layla realized her life was no longer chained to him. Her story was about to change. Adrian's body hit the hospital floor with a thud. The sound echoed in Layla's ears, like a cruel reminder of everything that had just unfolded. The divorce papers slipped from his hand, fluttering across the sterile tiles. "Code Blue!" a nurse shouted. Doctors rushed in, pushing a crash cart. The room filled with chaos, the rhythm of footsteps, the hiss of oxygen, the sharp instructions. Layla could only watch. She wanted to feel anger, but all she felt was emptiness. This man, her husband, had broken her heart, and still, a small part of her chest ached at the sight of him lying helpless. His pulse is weak, the doctor barked. Prepare the defibrillator. The machine screamed to life. His body jerked with every shock. Layla pressed her hand to her lips, her tears falling freely. Vanessa stood frozen at the door, her mascara streaking down her face. For the first time, her confidence vanished. She was trembling, afraid. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, Adrian's chest rose with a shaky breath. The beeping steadied. He was alive, but barely. The doctor turned to Layla. He'll need to stay under observation. His stress levels are dangerously high. If he doesn't rest, his heart won't hold. Layla closed her eyes. The words struck her like a cruel twist of fate. The man who had just forced her to give blood while pregnant was now clinging to life himself. Vanessa rushed forward. I'll stay with him, she cried. But the doctor shook his head. Only his wife is listed as next of kin. Only she can sign his care papers. You'll have to wait outside. Vanessa's mouth opened, but no sound came. She looked at Layla. with pleading eyes. Layla didn't move. She simply turned her face away. Hours passed. Adrian was moved into the private ward. Layla sat in silence, her body still weak, her heart even weaker. She watched the rise and fall of his chest, the man who once made promises of forever, now reduced to a fragile figure under tubes and wires. She remembered the first time she met him, a confident young businessman who made her laugh, who made her feel like she was the only woman in the world. That man was gone. In his place was someone she could no longer recognize. The door creaked open. Vanessa slipped inside. Her voice was low. "Layla, please, don't leave him now. He needs you." Layla's head turned slowly. Her voice was firm. "He needed me when I begged him to protect me and our baby. He chose you instead." Vanessa bit her lip. Shame colored her face. For once, she had no reply. Layla pulled the blanket over herself. Her body trembled from exhaustion. She whispered, more to herself than anyone else, "I'll sign the care papers. But after that, he's on. His own. My child will not grow up watching me suffer like this." The room fell into silence. Only the monitors kept ticking. Layla closed her eyes, her decision final. Morning light seeped in through the blinds. Adrian stirred, groaning softly. His eyelids fluttered open. His gaze fell on Layla, seated in the chair beside him. For the first time, his face wasn't cold or arrogant, it was vulnerable. "You stayed..." His voice cracked, weak. Layla didn't answer. She stared at him with eyes that no longer held the warmth he once knew. He tried to reach for her hand, but his strength failed. His lips trembled. "Don't leave me, Layla." She leaned forward, her voice steady, her eyes locked on his. "I already left you, Adrian. Last night." Her words pierced deeper than any wound. Adrian's heart monitor spiked, then steadied again. His face twisted in pain, but not from his illness. It was from the realization that he had lost her. And for the first time, Adrian Steele, the untouchable CEO, felt true fear. Adrian's chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. The cold words still echoed in his ears. "I already left you, Adrian." Last night, he tried to speak, but no sound came. His throat burned, his pride shattered. For years, he had lived as a man who feared nothing, who controlled everything. But now, lying weak in a hospital bed, he realized the only thing he truly feared was happening, losing Layla forever. Layla turned her gaze away, her hand instinctively resting on her stomach. Her baby kicked softly, reminding her of the life she had to protect. She whispered under her breath, "It's not just me anymore." Adrian heard her. His heart clenched. His child, his blood. He wanted to reach out, to beg, to confess every wrong, but his body betrayed him. He could only lie there, helpless, watching as Layla distanced herself, not just with her words, but with her soul. The door opened. Vanessa walked in, carrying a bouquet of flowers. She froze when she saw Adrian's eyes fixed on Layla, not her. For the first time, she felt invisible. "I brought these," she murmured, placing the flowers on the table. Her voice faltered. "Adrian, leave." His tone was weak, but the command was sharp. His eyes never left Layla. Vanessa's face drained of color. She looked at Layla, then back at Adrian. "You can't mean that. After everything..." "I said leave." Her lip quivered. For once, Vanessa understood she was nothing more than a shadow in his life. She stepped back, her heels clicking against the floor, and left without another word. Silence filled the room again. Layla rose from her chair. "I'll have the nurse. Check your vitals." She turned to leave. "Layla..." Adrian's voice cracked. "Don't go." She paused at the door, her back to him. "You went too far, Adrian. You chose her over me, over your own child. What's left for us?" Her words were daggers. Adrian's vision blurred with tears. The man who once commanded boardrooms, who struck fear in his rivals, was now reduced to begging. "I was blind. I thought power meant never showing weakness. But the truth is, without you, I have nothing. Not even myself." Layla turned, her eyes glistening. For a moment, she saw the boy she once loved, not the man who betrayed her. But the wounds were too deep. "I'll make arrangements to leave today," she said firmly. "The papers are signed. My decision won't change. Adrian's body trembled. Panic surged through him. He tried to sit up, but his chest burned. His heart monitor beeped erratically. The doctor rushed in. "Mr. Steele, lie down. You'll kill yourself if you move. Now." But Adrian's eyes were wild, desperate. "Don't take her from me," he shouted, his voice breaking. Layla's tears spilled over. She stepped back, clutching her stomach, terrified by his collapse, but unwilling to give in. The doctor adjusted his IV, forcing him to settle back. The sedative calmed his racing heart, but his eyes stayed fixed on her until they fluttered closed. Layla sank into the chair, her hands shaking. She had never seen Adrian like this, broken, pleading, human, and that terrified her more than his cruelty ever did. That evening, she packed her small bag. She signed the last of the hospital papers. She stood by the window, looking at the city lights outside. For the first time, she felt the weight of freedom, heavy and unfamiliar. The nurse entered quietly. "Mrs. Steele, your husband keeps calling your name in his sleep." Layla swallowed hard. She whispered almost to herself, "I'm not his wife anymore." She turned to leave, but just as her hand touched the door, she heard Adrian's weak voice behind her. He was awake again, his eyes glassy, his body fragile. "Layla, Des, please. Don't let my child grow up hating me." Her hand froze on the handle, and in that moment, her resolve trembled. Layla's hand trembled on the door handle. Adrian's voice, weak and broken, wrapped around her like a chain she had tried so hard to break. "Don't let my child grow up hating me." Her heart twisted. She turned slowly. Adrian's eyes were glassy with tears, his body fragile under the wires and machines. For once, there was no arrogance, no pride, only raw regret. Layla stepped closer, her arms wrapped protectively over her stomach. "You had a choice, Adrian. You chose her. You chose power. You chose everything but us." Adrian's lips trembled. "And it destroyed me. I see it now. Nothing matters without you." Layla shook her head. "Words are easy. But you never protected me when it counted. You broke me when I needed you most." Silence fell heavy in the room. Adrian's breath hitched. His hand twitched as if reaching for her, but he lacked the strength. "I can't undo the past, but let me try, Layla. Let me be the father our child deserves." Her chest rose and fell in uneven breaths. Tears blurred her vision. She wanted to believe him, but the scars were deep. How do I trust a man who once demanded I bleed for another woman while carrying his child? Adrian's face twisted with shame. He closed his eyes, his tears sliding down his temples. "Because I swear with what life I have left, I'll spend every moment making it right." The monitor beeped steadily, filling the silence. Layla stared at him for a long moment. She thought of her unborn child. She thought of the night she cried alone. She thought of the love that once felt unbreakable, but had been shattered into pieces. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft but firm. "I won't raise my child in a home of betrayal, but I also won't teach them to hate their father. You will get to be in their life, Adrian, as long as you earn it." His eyes opened, relief washing over him like a tide. A small broken smile formed on his lips. "Thank you," she shook her head. "Don't thank me. Thank the child you almost lost. They're the only reason I'm still standing here." Adrian nodded weakly. His gaze followed her as she gathered her bag. This time she didn't storm out with anger, nor did she collapse in despair. She walked out with quiet strength, her steps steady. The door closed behind her. Adrian lay alone in the sterile room, the divorce papers still folded on the table. He clutched the thin blanket, his heart heavy with both regret and a flicker of hope. Days later, Layla signed the final documents. She moved into a small apartment on the edge of the city. The space was modest, but it was hers. She decorated the baby's room with soft colors, tiny clothes folded neatly in drawers. For the first time in months, she felt peace. Adrian visited weeks later. His body was thinner, his face paler, but his eyes held something different, humility. He stood at her doorway with trembling hands, holding a teddy bear. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said quietly. "I just want to be here. For you Both. Layla looked at him for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. For the child. Not for me. Adrian nodded. He entered slowly, placing the toy in the nursery. His hand brushed the crib rail, his eyes glistening. For once, the powerful CEO looked small, human, and painfully real. Layla watched him. She no longer saw the man who controlled her life. She saw a man learning how to start again, piece by fragile piece. The air was heavy, but it was not hopeless. Her heart whispered that the road ahead would be hard, but for her child's sake, she would walk it. Adrian turned to her, his voice low. Even if I never earn you back, I'll spend the rest of my life proving I can be a father. Layla's eyes softened. She placed a hand on her belly and whispered, "Then prove it." For the first time, silence didn't feel like war between them. It felt like fragile peace. And as the night settled outside the small apartment, Layla finally allowed herself to breathe. Not because the pain was gone, but because she had chosen strength over despair and hope over hate. Her story was no longer about a broken marriage. It was about building a future where her child would never doubt they were loved. His eyes opened, relief washing over him like a tide. A small broken smile formed on his lips. "Thank you," she shook her head. "Don't thank me. Thank the child you almost lost. They're the only reason I'm still standing here." Adrian nodded weakly. His gaze followed her as she gathered her bag. This time she didn't storm out with anger, nor did she collapse in despair. She walked out with quiet strength, her steps steady. The door closed behind her. Adrian lay alone in the sterile room, the divorce papers still folded on the table. He clutched the thin blanket, his heart heavy with both regret and a flicker of hope. Days later, Layla signed the final documents. She moved into a small apartment on the edge of the city. The space was modest, but it was hers. She decorated the baby's room with soft colors, tiny clothes folded neatly in drawers. For the first time in months, she felt peace. Adrian visited weeks later. His body was thinner, his face paler, but his eyes held something different, humility. He stood at her doorway with trembling hands, holding a teddy bear. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said quietly. "I just want to be here. For you, both." Layla looked at him for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. "For the child. Not for me." Adrian nodded. He entered slowly, placing the toy in the nursery. His hand brushed the crib rail, his eyes glistening. For once, the powerful CEO looked small, human, and painfully real. Layla watched him. She no longer saw the man who controlled her life. She saw a man learning how to start again, piece by fragile piece. The air was heavy, but it was not hopeless. Her heart whispered that the road ahead would be hard, but for her child's sake, she would walk it. Adrian turned to her, his voice low. "Even if I never earn you back, I'll spend the rest of my life proving I can be a father." Layla's eyes softened. She placed a hand on her belly and whispered, "Then prove it." For the first time, silence didn't feel like war between them. It felt like fragile peace. And as the night settled outside the small apartment, Layla finally allowed herself to breathe. Not because the pain was gone, but because she had chosen strength over despair and hope over hate. Her story was no longer about a broken marriage. It was about building a future where her child would never doubt they were loved.